This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith reporting from the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois. We're so glad you can join us for today's episode. In today's show, I'll be talking with Kurt Maertens of BASF about the latest conditions in Iowa. Actually, he's an Eastern Iowa agronomist over there, and some conditions have really changed, especially when it comes to fungal diseases. We'll also have a check of the closing markets with the folks from agmarket.net. Again, they are here as well at the Farm Progress Show. But first, here's that conversation with Kurt Maertens as we get an update not only on the conditions in Iowa, but also on what farmers can do to kind of help this year and next year. Here at the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois, I'm talking with Kurt Maertens of BASF out of Eastern Iowa. And Kurt, it's great to see you here in person at the Farm Progress Show. We talked recently about pressure in Eastern Iowa, really across the state, but specifically in Eastern Iowa. A lot of tar spot, a lot of southern rust.
Yep.
Kind of real quick as an update, how have things progressed since the last time we talked even?
So we talked about, three weeks ago,
Yeah.
I think, and that disease pressure has continued to expand, and again, untreated areas are really starting to show it. I know there's a lot of fields that I've walked in the last week or so that are unfortunately dying and finishing up early. The good news is, boy, our fungicides are holding up extremely well. I'm very happy with their performance. I know they're not spotless by any means, but we got enough residual that's going to carry us in the black layer, which we got a lot of corn that's going to black layer next week or two. So that means harvest is really knocking on our door right now, and that's when we're really going to see the results from our fungicide applications. I know there's a lot of areas you can physically see them, but you know the real results are going to be in the yield when it comes in from the combine.
Of course, we're going to see a lot of the kind of struggles this year come to fruition in the bin once we see that for harvest. You've made a really interesting observation of the difference between like control corn and then seeing that Veltima fungicide applied on top of that. Tell me the stark difference that you saw in application between that disease pressure.
So right now, those untreated checks, like our research farm in Story City, when we were there for the field day back in early August, there was quite a bit of disease pressure in there now. That untreated check is now, that corn's pretty much dead. And we see the Veltima treated corn in that trial. It's still relatively green, still holding on, and there's going to be enough residual to carry it into black layer. Under, again, heavy disease pressure from southern rust, tar spot, northern corn leaf blight. Basically every fungal disease you can think of that we can find in corn, we're seeing that this year, and it's definitely showing up in that plot. And when I see that stark difference visually this time of year, it usually translates into some significant yield differences.
And there's going to be a lot of lessons learned from this year, because like you mentioned, even with the application, there was an intense amount of fungal pressure on that corn. But looking ahead to kind of future advancements that we could see from this, obviously those diseases I think are going to be kind of a target for, I would say, a lot of hybrids, a lot of treatments, just across the industry.
Yeah, we need to remember our diseases like tar spot, northern corn leaf blight, gray leaf spot, they overwinter in previous year's residue. So they're going to be, forefront for next year if we get a lot of precipitation again. Southern rust is a disease that overwinters in the south, like Texas. And again, if we have enough wind and warm temperatures pushing out from the south like we did this season, we could see southern rust again. We saw some last year. Obviously, this year it's major. So we still don't know if we're going to get that. The biggest lesson learned, I think, is that we put a plan together, a fungicide plan together in January or February when we're planning, and we stick with that plan. We get the application on early, and we stick with that plan. The folks that have stuck to that plan, created that plan and stuck to that plan, they're going to get rewarded extremely well, because those early applications are by far the cleanest and holding up the best.
Kind of shifting focus here a little bit, we've got the Real Results Yield Challenge from BASF. Tell us a little bit about that and kind of the farmer input that goes into that.
So that's a challenge that we rolled out, I think, back in March for this year. Folks, there's only a few days left to enroll, so I think we need to enroll by August 30th, so just a few days here to go. Go to our website, yieldchallenge.bsf.us, to enter and put in some information. Then we do require some pictures taken of where you see Veltima, Revitec, or Reviloc applied in your fields versus an untreated check, or it could be against a competitive fungicide. So that's a chance when you send in those pictures. And then, of course, we'll need some yield information a little bit later on. There's a deadline later this year. So every time you enter in, that gives you a chance to win a lease on a pickup truck. So what a year to have a yield challenge, because there's going to be some really stark differences between treated and untreated this year. And so if you've got, again, Baltima, Revitec, or Revilock applied on your farms, and you've got an untreated area, or you have it up against a competitive fungicide, make sure you enter into a chance to win a pickup truck, because, again, there's going to be a lot of those differences that we're physically seeing this year.
All right, Kurt, lots of great information today. For anyone who wants to get in touch, not only for the yield challenge, but just in general with BASF, how can they do that?
Make sure you reach out to your local BASF representative. Find us online as well.
All right, thanks again for your time, Kurt, and enjoy the rest of the Farm Progress Show.
You too, thank you.
That again was Kurt Maertens of BASF. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Of course, still here at the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois, talking with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net on site. Of course, they're both located in the Varied Industries tent. Kurt, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Well, kind of stabilization. We saw some steady trade. They ended up just closing a little bit lower on the day. Not a whole lot of new news. Just kind of wait and see how this tariff news unfolds and how this rust and tar spot unfolds, and see how this weather pattern unfolds here. Perfect weather here in Decatur, Illinois. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more perfect day to move around the show site. Talked to a lot of producers here. A lot of different areas have a lot of different situations. Some have rust, some don't. Some had good rain, some didn't. So it varies a lot. But for the most part, I think most of the conversations we had is expected here in the east, at least, expecting just maybe a little smaller corn yield, but they're still optimistic on their bean yields coming up and through here. So we'll see how this crop finishes off here and see what the next couple reports show.
And I think regardless, if it's a bin buster or not, or a record crop or not, it's going to be a decent crop. We know that for sure, just based on sheer how many acres are out there. So when it comes to seeing those prices and I guess how the markets are navigating right now, the weather's super nice. We're waiting kind of for other reports to come out. So like you mentioned, it feels like we're just kind of stuck in place waiting for something to happen, right?
Yeah, for the most part, the biggest decision now is we're making sure we've got some storage lined up. As you mentioned, we got a lot of acres, even though the yield might be a little lower or a little higher. And of all years, most producers just don't have as much sold ahead. So there's some decisions to make whether or not to store or sell. That's the big one. I know Ethan works in our office there. He's going to get a bagger. Well, he had to drive clear up to Minnesota to find a bagger. He thought about Canada, but I don't think they would let him back in the U.S. So.
Now, I don't know if that was Ethan's problem or if that was the equipment problem, but I think that's yet to be seen. Over on the livestock side of things, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
They held in there. The cattle, the feeders, and the fats were up sharply there for a while during the day, and they kind of pulled back here as we moved into the last part of the trading session. Still the bullish story there. I mean, the cattle and feed numbers are still tight. Now we're watching the consumer. And this coming weekend, Labor Day weekend, is going to be huge. See what type of clearance we see on that. That's going to be the story there. But also, too, traditionally, once we get past Labor Day, beef demand starts to slow a little bit. So we'll have to see how the consumer reacts and see what's enforced. But there's no big numbers coming us at it anytime soon.
All right, Kurt, lots of great information today. For anyone who can't make it to the Farm Progress Show and they want to get in touch with agmarket.net, how can they do that?
Go to agmarket.net, click on Intel. That's where most of our information's stored there. You can get access to our app and see a lot of good stuff.
All right, Kurt, thanks again for the conversation today, and we'll see you back online sometime on the show.
Very good. Take care.
Thanks again to the folks at agmarket.net for joining us as always, and it's also great to see them in person at shows like this. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com.
At the close, September corn was down 5 at 382 and a half. Soybeans down 1.5 at 1027 and a quarter. Soy meal down $4.10 at 293.10. Soy oil down 29 cents at 52.47. Chicago wheat down 7 and a quarter at 502 and a quarter. Kansas winter wheat 7.5 lower at 485 and a half. Kansas spring wheat down 1 and a quarter at 509 and a half. Minneapolis spring wheat down 15 and a quarter at 551 even. Oats down 1 3/4 at 306 and a half. On the Merc Live, cattle up $1.32 at 239.52. Feeders up 35 cents at 365.40. Lean hogs up 47 cents at 93.90. Pork cutouts unchanged at 102.22. Class 3 milk down 43 cents at 18.20.
That's been a check of the closing markets here on Ag Matters PM. That also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AMPM on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well to check out our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pod's Potential. Find those on your favorite podcasting services at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois, I'm Riley Smith reporting. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.